Hey guys, Jay here, and I'm a little frustrated. This is the Eversolo Play, and to put it frankly, it is absolutely perfect for what it is. And what it is a streaming amplifier, so all you need with this unit is essentially a pair of speakers and a speaker cable, and you're done. It outputs 60 watts into 8 ohms and 110 watts into 4 ohms, which is not a lot of power, and we'll come back to the power ratings in a minute and what kind of speakers it can drive and it can't drive in a minute here. But essentially, this unit has everything that you need to play music, store music, stream, and rip CDs and playback CDs. And in this video, I'm not gonna go into all the settings. I'm gonna actually put a video down in the description, which will be coming out very soon, of me going through all these settings on this unit and explaining how you can use it, how I would use it, and going through every nitty-gritty setting so that you get the best performance and experience possible. But in this video, I want to talk about why I'm frustrated. So if it's so perfect for what it is, why am I frustrated? Well, I'm frustrated because I've been just shopping for some Sony cameras, and as you may know, Sony cameras are similar to how Eversolo is doing things. Meaning, with Sony cameras, every time there is a new model, it doesn't matter if it's the top of the line or a budget category, they integrate their newest technology into that unit, making you feel left out when your top of the line cameras you bought in the previous year do not have those new features. Now, Eversolo isn't nearly as bad, but I can't even say it's a bad thing because technically you are getting new features, new stuff at a lower price. But if you bought previous Eversolo pieces, if you're a loyal Eversolo enthusiast and bought the DMP A8 or the A10 or the A6, well, this may strike you a little bit in the heart like it did for me. Because like I said, the Eversolo Play has not only streaming capabilities that is very much similar to the DMP A6, A8, or the A10, but it also has things like room correction, paramedic EQ, all the view meters, this exact same UI system, multi-room capability, CD ripping capability, and a CD playback capability. So basically, this is all you need to play music. And if that was not enough, it also has a Class D amplifier, like I mentioned, built into it that can output 60 watts into 8 ohms and 110 watts into 4 ohms to drive a plethora of speaker choices out there. So that leaves us with the question, why do we need a DMP A6 anymore? Maybe you're thinking like I did, thinking that maybe the Eversolo Play has less of a DAC, right? Less performance of a DAC. But no, it has a very good AKM DAC that actually prefer over the Saber DAC chips that was implemented in the previous DMP units. And then it also has CD ripping and CD, player capability that we have to talk about because that was something that you have to buy separately, connected through USB to the DMP A6 to have any chance of ripping any type of CDs. Well, on the Eversolo Play, you have a built-in CD-ROM, and this is a extra $100 option, but nevertheless, for $799 or without the CD-ROM, $699. The CD ripper and CD player functionality on this unit is stellar, and I highly recommend you get the $799 model for extra $100 that has the CD function if you have some CDs or even just a little bit of CDs, because again, $100 is not a lot of money to have the functionality built in to rip CDs and playback CDs on this unit. Oh, and I forgot, it also supports moving magnet and moving coil cartridges if you play turntables. Even moving magnet! And the reason I make a big deal out of that is because most integrated units like this, let alone an all-in-one, supports moving coil magnet as well for cartridges. So this is ridiculous, it has everything. If you want to add a subwoofer for that deep bass extension, no problem, it has a dedicated sub out on the back. As well, it has all the functions to make sure that the sub is integrated properly into your room with your speakers in the settings, much like the DMP A6. And talking about the back, you also have an option of the HDMI eARC to connect it directly to your TV. It also has a USB 3.0 for connecting separate storages, but it does not have the built-in SSD card slot on the bottom like we saw on the DMP A6. So that's something that is missing. Now, if we really want to talk about the stuff that is missing on the Eversolo Play compared to the previous DMP units, well, there are a few things. First of all, the Eversolo Play does not have I2S like the Eversolo DMP A8 did, but neither did the A6 or the A10, which was a big disappointment that the A10 did not have I2S, which that doesn't even make sense to me. And it doesn't have exactly the same pro features as the DMP A8 and the A10 did. Instead, you get kind of the paramedic EQ, which is still very, very good for optimizing your setup and tweaking little things and using EQ to fine-tune your system. Perfect for that. And it is very similar to the DMP A6. And I think that's pretty much it, but comment below if I'm missing anything that the Eversolo Play is missing out of all the comparisons to the DMP A6, A8, or the A10 units. Because again, all the DMP units had different kind of features and the reasons to buy specific models, because DMP A8, for example, had I2S, DMP A10 had room correction, but didn't have I2S, which is again weird. DMP A6 was the most budget model, but also had a plethora of features much like the Eversolo Play. And on top of that, what frustrates me even more is that this unit has multi-room functionality that literally crushes the competition like Sonos, for example. This unit is made so that each kind of zone is set and you can play it anywhere, everywhere if you have a big house. And I don't, so I only have one unit, but you can have multiple units of this for multi-room setup. Okay, maybe I shouldn't even be all that upset because I don't personally do multi-room setup, I just said so. Well, because this is a multi-room device, it has spectacular Wi-Fi capability, even without the stupid antenna sticking out like it did on the DMP units. And if you hear me talk about the DMP units in those reviews, you'll hear me say stuff like the Wi-Fi keeps dropping out even with these antennas, two of them. It just doesn't work. So I had to use the Ethernet port on the back of these units and physically connect it to my modem. But this unit, the Eversolo Play, you don't need to do that because the Wi-Fi is spectacular. And it also has a gigabit Ethernet port in case you want to hardwire it. But the Wi-Fi is the first unit out of the Eversolo units where I had zero problems with dropouts with the Wi-Fi. And I really can't look at this product in a bubble vacuum, and if this was the first Eversolo unit that I have ever reviewed, then I would have looked at it as a vacuum and it would have been a fantastic, flawless product to a large degree. But because I have reviewed virtually every single DMP unit, I can't look at this in a vacuum, and I can't help but think that the people that bought the previous DMP units might be a little upset that they don't get some of these features. And for example, the CD ripping capability is not something that can be just easily added through firmware updates. But thankfully, this unit isn't exactly the same. So on the back, you see that there is no XLR outputs. In fact, there is no analog outputs whatsoever. There is only analog inputs via the 2 RCA. And one of them is for phonos, so that doesn't count. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better as it did for me if you bought the DMP units in the past. But also this unit has a Class D amplifier that I just absolutely love and would have loved to see a Class D amplifier like this that is meant for the Eversolo units. Now if you're thinking the Eversolo F2 is exactly that, you're wrong. In fact, the Eversolo F2 sounds too clinical with the Eversolo setup compared to what I experienced with the Eversolo F10 amplifier and the Eversolo DMP A10 combination. That was a great match. Because as you may have known, the Eversolo F10 has that more warm and darker sound signature, and then the A10, the streamer, had a more clinical sound, more brighter, more linear. So those two in combination gave a really nice balance between detail and warmth and body to the sound that was very much enjoyable, and I thought it was synergistically a great match. Well, this is basically the mini version of that. The Eversolo Play with the Class D amplifier built inside provides a sound that is very much similar to the F10 and the A10 combination that costs over 10 grand here in Canada. However, I did find that unfortunately, it is quite limited in comparison. Aside from the A10 providing more pro features to fine-tune your sound, including loudness contour and all that kind of stuff that the Play doesn't have, aside from all that, well, the Play's Class D amplifier only outputs 60 watts into 8 ohms and 110 watts into 4 ohms like I said, and that really powers very selective number of speakers. For example, I have the Kef R3 Metas here, which is about 87 dB in sensitivity with a nominal impedance of about 4 ohms, with the minimal being 3.7 ohms, which is a fairly, typical hard to drive-ish speaker out there, not the craziest. But to get that speaker to rocking levels in my room, I literally have to max out the entire volume. Now with this being said, I will say that it does still sound very good even at the max volume, and that is only at cranking loud volumes. If you listen to it at moderate volumes, then even the R3 Meta is perfectly fine with the Eversolo Play. But if you have a speaker that is more power hungry and harder to drive than the Kef R3 Metas, then I would say this cannot drive it. And this is really for people that listens to music at, low volumes to medium volumes, Sean Fowler volumes. So this is to say you'll be fine for the most part if you have sensitive speakers, reasonably sensitive speakers, and even, 86, 87 dB speakers or whatever. But you play around medium to low level listening rather than cranking it up, which you can if you max out the volume once in a while, but it is not something I would recommend that you do all the time. So I would say the biggest limitation I see with this unit is the power capability and its ability to actually drive some of the speakers out there. But again, I will say it does sound very, very good, especially for the money. The only problem is that it can't get loud enough with some speakers. If you want to know more about the sound quality aspect and how I would describe the sound, just check my Eversolo A10 and the F10 combination review, because essentially that's what I'm getting out of this unit, except again, limitations with that power spec. But in terms of soundstage, in terms of the tone, the overall pleasantness of the music that comes through out of it, all is very similar to the A10 and the F10 combination. Now that sounds all great and impressive, but before you decide to buy this, there are a few things that I really do not like about this unit that you should know about, and that is mainly due to the form factor as well. But on the back, the binding posts are way too close to each other, and this is not the first unit that I've ever seen that does this. I absolutely do not like it, because this means that you have a higher chance of potentially shorting cables, but also you can't use any thick cables, so you have to be selective with the cables that you use in your stereo setup. And also the binding post isn't just that much of a high quality binding post. And talking about the binding post, also the overall chassis feel is a bit of lower quality than what I expected from Eversolo, and it is quite similar on the surface as the DMP units. But the more time I spend with it, the more I touch it, the more I feel like it feels cheaper of a product. And on top of that, I think the volume control really seals the deal in terms of this being perceived as a lower end product compared to the DMP units, because the volume control is just a little bit cheap feeling even compared to the DMP A6 units, and there's a mild difference compared to the DMP A10's volume control, which I really loved. So that's pretty much it as far as my opinion of the Eversolo Play, but if you want a more in-depth discussion about all the features and how to set it up and all that kind of stuff, check the link description below. I will have a video released very shortly going through all the features, a walkthrough of the Eversolo Play. And if you would like a similar walkthrough with all the DMP units like the A6, A8, and the A10, then make sure to click like on this video. If this video reaches 2,000 likes, then I will make a guide for each and every unit, as well as the pro features within those units as well. So if you want that, make sure to click like on this video and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those videos when it is released. And I'll see you guys on my next video. Until next time.